Hello, everybody. Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz. We've got things to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? I was not really sure when I was talking to you last time. I said, "Hey, look, I'll make 7:30 on Sunday the standard. We'll see about the midweek. It's going to depend on what actually happens. Do we have enough content for a midweek show?" It felt like things were kind of slowing down, but lo and behold, we have a tone shift coming from Pac-12 country on the timing of this TV deal. After, for a while, I would say the last month or so, the push has been, hey, we're weeks away. And really, if you wanted to extrapolate that out, it's been months that the Pac-12 has been just weeks away from getting their actual TV deal done. But now that tune has suddenly changed from not we're just weeks away. All of a sudden, the Arizona president's in Kazakhstan, and it may be months. CBS Sports reports it may be months. Now that's Dennis Dodd, who's on the Big 12 side, but even our guy John Canzano put out a piece today laying the groundwork for, hey, this might actually be a while before the Pac-12 gets a TV deal done. So that's been remarkable to see that we're getting that sort of a tone shift from even the Pac-12iest of Pac-12 sources here on this matter. So that's the overarching theme tonight of what is going on. But we also have Dennis Dodd quoting a major TV consultant who says this is a direct quote, at an absolute loss as to how the Pac-12 gets at least or more than 50% of its games on linear TV, which is a big deal because we talk a lot about the finances. It's sexier, it's easier to get sucked into the dollar value, the monetary value of what the deal is going to be. But an important part of this is visibility, and it's whether or not you're going to actually have people watching your games. You don't want it to be too streaming heavy. And so this is somebody else casting doubt on that. The Canzano article had a lot of nuggets. I would even suggest that he was starting to lay some of the groundwork for maybe the Pac-12 TV deal won't actually hit that $31.6 million that the Big 12 got. We'll get into that. We'll try and decipher some of that and see what is going on there. And hey, shout out to our guy Jeff Fuller, who we talked about because of some of his work on this channel before. He did a great job of tracking. I think it was throughout the last couple football seasons, the conference strength, where it was at in computer rankings and tracking how much better the Big 12 was performing than the Pac-12. He worked with somebody else, and my apologies for forgetting the other name, but he worked to put together a really good piece with some added context. I would compare this to like what Sam Bradshaw was doing with TV numbers, except he did it with TV markets. So they break down the context of TV markets and how much does it actually matter that the Pac-12 has more raw TV homes than the Big 12 if those homes don't really care about college football. There is some very, very good context that we have from those numbers too. So a lot of interesting things to chew on here throughout the chat. But as you guys know, if you have been here before, you can dictate much of the content here tonight by doing what my friend David just did. And I will get to David's comment here in just a second. But if you see what he did there, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. If you have a question or comment tonight, that is a way to make sure that your comment gets on the show, your question or comment. We're almost at 100 people already in the chat here tonight. There will be too much going on for me to get to everything. So that is a way to ensure that your voice is heard on the chat here tonight, helps you control the content on the show tonight, and it's a way to support the channel because I could not do it without all the support that you guys give me. And as always, I immensely, immensely appreciate it. So it's a way to support the channel while making your voice heard. Again, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something in order to do that. A free way that you can help out the channel, and I much appreciate all of you who do this as well. Just one click. Just click that like button, rather. Click the like button. That helps me out too, helps out with the algorithm. If you are watching this after the fact, or even if you are not, if you leave a comment under the video, that helps me too. All of that engagement helps spike the algo, the almighty algo, that algorithm. And that is all very, very helpful as well. If you are not watching this live and you want to support the channel, you can support the channel on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. So that is one other way to do that. I think we have the table set. I do want to mention something that I saw here. And David, I promise I'm getting to your donation here in just a second. I saw it come up a couple of times before you donated, and I think you'll understand here why I'm going to bring this up. But I do want to say I did see yesterday, those of you on social media that were talking about Golden Blue Dude, who unfortunately passed away. another one of the YouTubers from Big 12 country who was putting out conference realignment related content and Big 12 related content. I don't know any of the details, but I mean, that is very sad. He was good dude. I mean, I had just a little bit of contact with him at one point in time when we were trying to work something out to do a show together. It never quite came together, but certainly my condolences and thoughts to everybody involved there. I heard he had a wife and kids, so that very, very sad. Terribly, terribly sad to hear that. So my thoughts, certainly everybody. I hope your thoughts go out there as well to Golden Blue Dude. So anyway, I did want to make mention of that. So I see Mountaineer Paul in here says that there's been several memorial videos done on him today. So make sure you guys check those out. Man, leaves behind 4 kids and a wife. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys are able to support however you can there and check out those memorial videos for sure, because you hate to see that for somebody in this community and in this ethos that was definitely a great Big 12 fan as well. Okay, we'll kick this off with David tonight. Once again, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. If you would like to donate and make your question or comment heard on the show tonight. David says, can we use the John Kurtz YouTube channel to kick off the Will Howard for Heisman campaign? Always enjoy your work and content here. Well, absolutely we can. I think Will Howard's being slept on a little bit. I saw the comments today. Joe Klanderman, who's K-State's defensive coordinator, had a spring football presser today, and he was saying that there's been even a massive jump with Will Howard from last year to this year. And I like that. I mean, K-State's quarterback room, pretty damn salty right now with Avery Johnson in there too, 4-star stud, high school dual threat quarterback that had Oregon and Washington offers and chose K-State. Good things in that QB room. So I'm totally with you, man. I think Will Howard is very underrated. A lot of these lists that we've seen with like best quarterbacks in the Big 12 or best quarterbacks in college football, not really including the defending Big 12 champ, who did a tremendous job. Again, you take the efficiency numbers in terms of how often the offense was scoring when he was actually at quarterback for K-State last year. He was the best. He was the most efficient quarterback in the Big 12. So yes, I feel like people are sleeping on Will Howard. But you know what, David? It's kind of the way I like it. It's kind of the way at K-State we like it. Sleep on our guys and see what happens. Now, if you want to win the Heisman, that's not really a great thing. So I will do whatever I can to produce some publicity there for Will Howard, starting with your comment. So really, David, that's on you. You are the one that jump-started this Heisman campaign. I cannot take credit for that. That was you. So thank you for that, David, and thank you for your kind words tonight. Charlie, what's up, Charlie? Charlie, I appreciate you being here. Charlie Piazza, love that. How much do you think the TV deal would be if Texas and OU stayed with the 4 new schools joining? That's an interesting hypothetical. Look, obviously, like Texas and Oklahoma would never want those 4 new schools in here, but so we're at 32, and they said about half the Big 12 TV value was going to be lost with Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, Texas and Oklahoma are probably worth another. I mean, it's just a total shot in the dark. But if we're talking like inflation and stuff too, I mean, I don't, maybe another 30 mil, on that TV deal. I'm looking at closer to like 60 mil per year per school, something like that. The interesting calculation, like I think we've covered this. I covered this in a video not that long ago, but I think the BYU ad was the one that was actually additive for the conference. So bringing them in would definitely help. I think in your scenario, like the ultimate TV deal, like for right now, TV deal, the ultimate improve the TV deal way to go would be to just add BYU with Texas and Oklahoma, because then you're being purely additive and not bringing in other mouths to feed, so to speak, in that scenario. So that I think would be the way that you would maximize the distribution per team. It obviously wouldn't be like the gross overall number, but the distribution per team, that would be the way to go about doing that. But appreciate the question. Thank you for being here, Charlie. Appreciate you, my friend. Again, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something to donate and get your question or comment in here. All right, let's start with the latest Dennis Dodd article, which deals a lot with a media consultant, Jim Williams, who we're going to talk about in just a moment. I believe he was mentioned in the BYU piece that I used for that video a couple of weeks ago. And I've actually been in contact with him. I may be able to get him on the channel here pretty soon. So I don't want to promise you something if it's not going to work out, but I think there is a good chance that it will, pending that we can match our schedules up. So I am eager to have that conversation as well and bring that to you guys. But I'll start with this, and this actually came like buried a little bit later on in the article, but I'm pulling it out and bringing it to the top here because I think it is a good scene setter for just the general gist of what it is that we're going to talk about here tonight. It says CBS Sports reported last week that no Pac-12 deal is imminent, less than 15 months before its current media rights deal expires. Sources indicate, here's the important part, sources indicate it could be months before such a deal is consummated. Moving forward, the issue becomes whether schools pursued by the Big 12 get antsy enough to take more of what might look like more of a sure thing in that conference. Okay, so Dennis Dodd is saying sources indicate it could be months before such a deal is consummated. The context here, I mean, Dennis Dodd has been very, pro Big 12 almost doesn't even see. I mean, yes, generally like pro Big 12, but it's more just pushing Big 12 talking points. It seems very much like that, pushing Big 12 talking points. And I would actually argue again here, using the consultant is kind of a way to push some Big 12 talking points. And I think it's all very insightful what we get from the consultant here. And frankly, I agree with him. But writing another story like that, the Pac-12 side is definitely going to complain about, hey, this is just the same thing we've heard over and over again. You're getting it out, finding a different vessel to get it out there in the news cycle and push it once again. But I guess the response that I would have to Pac-12 country is like when the deal is that it could be months away, and even John Canzano, who I'll get to more of in just a minute, is kind of echoing those sentiments. You're just inviting more of this. And I mean, look, the Pac-12 doesn't, George Kliavkoff clearly does not care. I mean, that's been basically echoed throughout reporting from Canzano and Wilner, et cetera, here for a while now. And you don't even really need the reporting. You just need his silence speaks very loudly when it comes to how he feels about caring, I guess, his level of caring, his level of giving, about all the stories that have come around in the media and the way this whole thing has been spun. Because if they really truly did care, if this really truly was a big deal, you would come out and say something. You'd be doing more to try and control the media other than just throw the Arizona and Arizona State presidents out there and have the Utah athletic director fire off a couple of tweets. Which, by the way, more on that again from Canzano. He said the Pac-12 has basically said it was not some orchestrated media campaign to get the Arizona and Arizona State presidents out there. So that's another way that the Pac-12 has really changed its tune here. Just a lot of water carrying going on for the Pac-12 and seemingly no real defined strategy here. But at this point, I mean, I know you can say what you will about like how much to trust Dennis Dodd here if you're on the Pac-12 side, but I don't. After all this waiting and all the Sports Business Journal has been really insightful with the Apple Amazon component of this, the streamers. If it's going to be a streaming heavy Pac-12 deal, then the word has been that is going to take a while, particularly if it's Apple. That's going to be a very finicky negotiation that they can be very difficult to deal with because they operate on Apple time. They are so big that they don't need to bow down to anybody. They don't care about anybody else's timeline. You're going to have to deal with Apple. So if it is going to be months, I mean, I would suggest that probably lends itself towards Apple being very heavily involved here in all of this. But more in the article from the consultant. It says, as the Pac-12 continues its search for a new media rights deal, it's become less viable that the conference will land a partner willing to feature more than half its games on traditional cable or broadcast TV. Media consultant Jim Williams told CBS Sports. The assertion could be a deal breaker as Pac-12 presidents consider whether a deal heavy on streaming would be enough to keep schools in the league. Arizona President Robert Robbins twice told CBS Sports in the last 3 weeks he expected over half the Pac-12 content to be on traditional linear TV platforms, with networks such as CBS, Fox, ESPN, and NBC considered the gold standard in live sports programming. Williams, however, decided to go on the record with comments being repeated throughout the sports media industry. The Pac-12 may be running out of time and getting most of its content seen on a major linear carrier. And here's the quote from Jim Williams, who the article notes is a 7-time Emmy award-winning producer who helped develop 5 different regional sports networks throughout a career that began in 1977. He says, I'm at an absolute loss how NBC, CBS, ESPN, ABC, or Fox gets the Pac-12 to 50%. I don't know how anybody could sit there and assure you that we're going to get that much on linear. I don't see how they get there. And that is a reference to the president at Arizona specifically, who basically did say that, like said that he was confident that over half of the games are going to be on streaming. And I will admit, I'm kind of in the middle on that one. I just have a where I'm at with it is I have a hard time seeing how the Pac 12 gets a successful deal if more than 50% is going to be on streaming. If you're not going to hit that 50% threshold, I think I just don't know how the schools really sign on to that. That to me feels kind of like a death sentence and not something that you would want to sign up for. So in that case, maybe the deal actually doesn't work and doesn't go through. If they are going to get a deal done, I would think that they find a way to squeeze that back out of there, and that they may have to get creative in doing that. I should have mentioned. I can't believe I kind of buried the lead to you guys here, and my apologies for doing this. I should be better than that. Ion TV came back up in this article. We got an Ion TV reference and we got a CW reference talking about Pac-12 on the CW after One Tree Hill, or what was the other show that was always like Dawson's Creek? Was that on CW? I mean, imagine that, like Dawson's Creek leading straight into the Territorial Cup, or Dawson's Creek leading straight into Washington State, Oregon State. That's what was talked about later on here in the article. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, I definitely get it. And Dennis Dodd makes an important point there. And I don't know that there's much disputing this. Pac 12 can disagree with it, but I think most of the industry is kind of in this same boat. That is what I would really agree with. Like most of the industry is sitting here looking at it and analyzing it and saying, I don't know how this is going to work. Like, I don't know how the Pac 12 gets what they actually want out of this. So that much I definitely agree with. And I do think that Mr. Williams here in this case is just putting voice to what a lot of people throughout the industry are thinking. I mean, Bob Thompson has been one of the few that's been out there from the industry that's been able to give us some insight on this and share his opinion pretty regularly, the former head of Fox Sports. And he probably hasn't, I wouldn't say, been as strong as Jim Williams was right there. But he has given some thoughts that at least are in the same sort of ballpark at times. That have been a little more Big 12 centric and sometimes comes back on the Pac 12 side. It's just interesting to get the thoughts of those who have actually been in it in the industry. Now, Williams talked about in this Dennis Dodd article what is close enough as far as the money. Like if the Pac 12 is going to get close enough to that $31.6 million mark, he says, what is close enough? I assume close enough is somewhere north of 25 million in that 27 million and 28 million category. And I would agree with that. 25, it's starting to get kind of dicey. I mean, now you're talking about almost a $7 million per year difference. If it's 25 mil and you're 50% on streaming, I mean, that now we're talking about a deal that could be problematic for the Pac-12. But I would venture a guess, specifically if it is going to be heavier streaming, that the money would be more than that. Here's your Ion and CW reference. I know you guys are ready for this. Frankly, if I really wanted to stir it up, if I really wanted to draw you all in, I would have just put that in the headline. Ion and CW are back. This is Dodd talking now, just Dodd's writing in the article. It says, short of a major linear character, I am not reading very well tonight. I apologize, you guys. Short of a major linear carrier, Williams sees value in both Ion and the CW networks. Ion, owned by Scripps Company, is a general entertainment network that is in 37 of the top 50 markets and was mentioned early in the process by Action Network as having conversations with the Pac-12. The CW is majority owned by Nexstar Media Group. The group of stations reportedly reaches 100% of U.S. TV markets, providing 14 hours of primetime programming per week. Its most notable sports property currently is Live Golf. I honestly had no idea. I'm not a golf guy. Had no idea that the CW actually had Live Golf. So, all right, I guess I've got a little bit of a foot in the water, toe in the water in the sports game. But I mean, look, neither of those would be a good headline. But if it does get more of your games on streaming, that's a start. We could really debate. I mean, is it better to have more of your, 20% of your inventory on Apple TV as opposed to being on CW or Ion? I don't know. But the thing that this really made me think of was when that got mentioned by Brett McMurphy, it got really, really lambasted by the Pac-12 crew. Ridiculous, Endeavor propaganda. I forgot Forgot the lady's name now at this point. Somebody remind me in the chat. Who was who was the lady that was supposedly running everything with Endeavor that I'm supposed to I shouldn't. She's my boss and pays me a lot of money every single month to do her bidding, but I can't remember her name. So if you could please remind me, that would be great, so I can get back to bowing down to her. But anyway, I digress. It does make me wonder if that was legit, at least in the fact that there was like some kind of cursory conversation there, like the same way that the Pac-12 crew will throw out, "Hey, the Big 12 has talked at the presidential level with Fresno State. Fresno State would be a fit potentially for the Big 12 here." And how often we have heard that when that seems obviously pretty ridiculous. Same sort of thing, taking one little nugget, one little morsel of some sort of like just exploratory conversation, covering your bases conversation, and it gets leaked to somebody. And that's kind of how this whole Cold War has gone between the Big 12 and Pac-12. Somebody finds that little bit of information, tries to get it out there, tries to create a story about it. And frankly, like the Big 12 has been obviously much better about doing that and corralling that information and making use of those sorts of pieces of information. And so if that was the work of Endeavor, obviously it's pretty good because it created a negative headline there for the Pac-12 for a while. But it lends a little bit of credibility to that to me. Now, I know it's just a consultant who is mentioning that, but that's at least somebody who's a veteran of the industry that sees the value in it. Like he's actually making a legitimate case for it here in this article. Like he makes a case that this could have some value. He says they could get there with Ion or get there with CW. Personally, if I were talking to one of these presidents, I would have zero problem with CW. They've got legacy stations all over the country. So I guess more of a case for CW than Ion, but he's lending some legitimacy to that, saying like, "Hey, I mean, I'm paraphrasing and speaking for him here, which probably isn't fair, but you might laugh at the headline of what the network is, but it does hold some value because of the amount of homes that it's going to reach. Holds more value certainly than like the Pac-12 network, which obviously was a disaster and didn't have enough reach across the country there. So if somebody in the industry is willing to at least see the value there, then I would think if there is that actual value there, the Pac-12 probably at some point had some sort of exploratory conversation with it. And maybe that's where that bit of information actually came from Brett McMurphy. To close out here with a little bit more from Dodd's article, he goes on to say, that begs another question. Would having a large amount of content on ESPN Plus, a streaming platform, be more acceptable to the Pac-12 than having games on Apple or Amazon? This is, of course, assuming ESPN is still involved in talks. To put the Pac-12 predicament in perspective, the Big 12 will have a minimum of 70% of its games on linear platforms in its new media rights deal. So, yeah, the Big 12 is going to be in pretty good shape as far as the split of streaming and actually over-the-air linear games. Would the Pac-12 take on having a large amount of content on ESPN Plus's streaming platform? Would that be more acceptable than Apple or Amazon? That's a very interesting predicament. To me, some of that would come down to money. I assume that they would make significantly more money on Apple or Amazon than they would just ESPN Plus, because as noted by Dodd later on in that article, the New York Post has said at one point there was a deal on the table from ESPN that was similar to what the Big 12 had, and that deal was on the table for the Pac-12, but obviously they didn't jump on that in time. George Kliavkoff was thinking more, and that has turned out to be a bad move. But if that is the case, I mean, I just don't I would think that monetarily is not going to do you much good to be on ESPN Plus. Would your visibility be much better on ESPN Plus than it would Apple or Amazon? I don't know. I tend to lean towards, if I were the Pac-12 in that scenario, I would think the numbers would be better if you went Apple or Amazon. And I'm not just talking money. I'm talking like visibility. It would potentially be worth it to take that money there. So anyway, interesting thought. Very interesting thought. It has been widely speculated ESPN will take a piece of the Pac-12 along with a streaming provider. However, the New York Post reported last month that ESPN once had a deal on the table for the Pac-12 equal to that Big 12 number, an offer that has since been revoked. Here's another quote from Jim Williams, the consultant. He says, I think where we're at right now is Apple would take a piece and maybe play with Amazon to give them a Friday night game. The trickier part is who then becomes the linear part. One final little bit here from Williams. He said, how are you going to tell Apple yes? How do you tell Amazon yes if you've got ADs and presidents who are saying, no, we can't do this? So again, he's referencing the interviews largely from the Arizona president who said, like, we think we'll get more than 50% on linear, and seemingly does not want the heavy streaming deal. He's saying, like, how would you say yes to Apple or Amazon if that's the case? You've got presidents who don't want the heavy streaming deal. You're going through this long, arduous negotiation with an Apple or an Amazon. How can you say yes when you don't have presidents on board? I guess my answer would be, like, if the money's there and they finally have some deal on board, they could probably find a way to get the presidents on board in time. But this is why you're seeing everything take so long, because those are the types of things that have to happen, plus lawyers involved. I mean, Canzano's been very consistent in providing a lot of cover for the Pac-12 with that there are just so many lawyers involved. You guys would have no idea how complicated this is. And look, I'm sure it's very complicated, but also I'm sure it wasn't really easy. I'm sure it was pretty complicated for the Big 12 too, from a legal standpoint, and the Big 12 was still able to get its deal done in rather short order. So I don't know that actually provides a legitimate enough excuse for the Pac-12 here and why we are seeing this delay. But anyway, that's the latest from Dennis Dodd. I will get you the latest from John Canzano, which carries a little bit more weight. You know, if you're getting the same sort of tone on time from Canzano, that carries more weight than Dodd, because if even Canzano is in the boat of like being resigned to now, oh, I guess this wasn't going to get done while everybody was at the Pac-12 tournament. If he's even kind of getting there now, that tells you a lot about what the reality of the situation is. First, though, Addicted to Capping. Addicted to Capping, a great name. And I appreciate you being here, Addicted to Capping, although I do hope that you kick that capping addiction pretty soon. Got to be careful with the capping. We'll see if you're capping here with your question. I do appreciate the donation and the support, my friend. I says, sorry to change the subject. What about my Hawks? What would be a success this year coming off of bowl season last year? By the way, damn you, Arkansas. Yeah, well, Kansas fans definitely have some bones to pick with Arkansas, especially after I saw, the basketball game, the round of 32 game that Arkansas won. Supposedly, I don't remember who it was. One of the guys on the KU beat had said that there were Arkansas staffers there who were like wearing Liberty Bowl stuff at the game, and someone popped off and said, like, hey, if Kansas wants us to end another one of their seasons, just let us know. So Arkansas getting pretty mouthy over there, it sounds like. What would be a success coming off a bowl season last year? I don't know. I mean, I'm of the opinion that getting back to a bowl, I realize the expectations are going to be higher from Kansas fans for this team this year, and rightfully so. They return a lot from last year. They kept the offensive coordinator, Kotelnicki, who to me, that's the star of the show. I mean, Leipold is obviously great, but I think the offense is so innovative and difficult to defend, and I can't say enough good things about Kotelnicki and what he does. You kept him, you kept Leipold, you got Jalen Daniels coming back, you've got a lot of the personnel coming back. The expectations definitely should be higher. I understand that. But when we're talking about a program that was in the doldrums, that endured the worst 15-year stretch, arguably in Power 5 football history before last year, I would just set the bar at bowl game. I mean, you get bowl eligible 2 years in a row, you go to a bowl 2 years in a row, you're doing really good things with that program. Now, do I think Kansas will be better? I do. I would think, right now, without doing a ton of in-depth research or anything, I would think Kansas is probably like an 8-win team, 7 or 8 win team upcoming this year. And that would be a nice step. But the other thing I would caution against here, if you're a Kansas fan, is just, I do think that the step from 6 wins to 9 or 10 wins is a lot more difficult than worst program in Power 5 to getting bowl eligible. I know you might look at me a little funny and be like, man, how low was that team before? Like, that's so no one could pull them out for 15 years. Yes, but Kansas was hiring a bunch of slappies. Charlie Weiss, Les Miles, David Beatty, who was just totally overmatched. Turner Gill is like the most defensible hire in that whole span, where like I can see what the idea was and the thought was, and kind of an up-and-coming guy. And obviously he was a total disaster and started running everything into the ground. But the other 3 hires were dreadful from the get-go. So, Kansas finally they hired a competent coach. So I think a competent coach, like you have so much room for improvement there. You can improve more rapidly than you can. Once you get to this level, and now you're fighting in a 14 team Big 12 to try and step it up another notch or two. And I say this somewhat from experience because I've lived it with K State. I lived it with K State where they were chilling under Chris Kleiman at that like 7-5 level. And it was very hard to break through and get to the next level of a Big 12 championship, which they finally did this past year. And even when they did that, it's in a year where they lose to Tulane early in the year. They go through quarterback injury struggles. Like, it's hard, man. It is really hard to do that. So that would be my caution for Kansas fan expectations this year. That was a very long answer, but I hope addicted to capping that gets it done for you. I'm seeing everybody in the chat. Thank you everybody in the chat for reminding me that it's Karen at Endeavor who is signing my paychecks and getting me the money here. So all hail, Lord Karen. All hail. Thank you guys for reminding me that. You're going to save me an awkward conversation at the water cooler there with that one. David, what's up, David? David, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you chiming in. David says maybe the Pac can get MTV and go with whatever Shores as a new conference name. Ooh. Well, how about this, David? Let me twist that on its side a little bit and say that I used to really like and watch back in the day. I think this was like when I was in high school and college. They had Laguna Beach on MTV, which was like a reality show, one of those earlier era reality shows. Laguna Beach was pretty good. So maybe we can just change it to, just like season. I don't know what season they left off at, but it could be like season 6 or season 7 or something of Laguna Beach and just have it be the Pac-12 TV deal. It could just follow Cleve Codd to all of his business meetings. He doesn't have an office anymore, so they're not based in San Fran. He could be just hanging out at Laguna Beach, and it could just be him going from like coffee shop, do a little surfing in the afternoon, maybe hop on a phone call with ESPN for a little while there, talk to Robert Robbins, making a long distance call from Kazakhstan. Who knows? Who knows what all you could find on that reality show? So I like that idea, David. And look, David, here's another advantage to that. If the Pac-12 were to do that and actually get on MTV, you talk about undercutting younger, hipper, cooler Big 12. I mean, what's younger, hipper, and cooler than MTV? This is the way. The Pac-12, I hope people at the Pac-12 offices that, again, don't exist are watching this YouTube channel because we have just given them a very good idea. The Big 12 is bringing in DJ Shaq I know it's DJ Diesel or whatever, but Shaq to DJ the Big 12 tournament. They got Fat Joe. They've got Ashanti, all these names. But what if you just went straight to MTV? If the Pac-12 went straight to MTV, that seems like a very good idea, David. It really does. Zesty's Retro and Games. What's up, Zesty's Retro and Games? Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the support. When do you think the Big 12 moves on Big East teams? I don't know the timing of that. I will say the way this is going, I don't know. Maybe it happens before the Pac-12 TV deal. I don't think that would actually happen. I think you're doing your due diligence here if you wait to see what's going to happen with this Pac-12 TV deal first before you moved on that. But Yormark doesn't mess around. Like, we know that. And I do very much believe that behind the scenes, he's working towards that. And it is something that he would like to try and pull off if he can. Splitting the Big 12 basketball and football rights, making the basketball rights their own entity and trying to create an extra $10 to $15 million out of that. And again, that's the number that I've heard floated out there. I'm not saying that I necessarily believe that's realistic. I don't know if that is or isn't, because we're in pretty uncharted territory there if you're going to take basketball rights and do that. But you'd have to get all the big boys, I would think, from the Big East. You'd have to get all the big boys involved there if you're going to actually do that. Creighton, Villanova, I guess St. John's for the New York market, I suppose. UConn, yeah, there's been more chatter about UConn. I think this actually was MH Threever or whatever our friend is on Twitter was talking about UConn being a full-fledged member. I don't know, but if the Pac-12 is going to be touting, all the Pac-12 writers going to be touting like, hey, San Diego State, no brainer now that they won the national championship or played for the national championship. What about UConn winning the national championship, right? No brainer now for the Big 12. We shall see. But the Big East, I think it was Seth Greenberg actually made the statement the other day that the Big East is going to be the new power in college basketball. And they're now the best conference in college basketball, which, I mean, look, what a ludicrous statement after the Big 12 won the last two national championships, played for three of the last four. Let's just chill out with that a little bit. But the Big East clearly seems to be like in line to be number two. You'd basically be like merging those two basketball conferences. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good in terms of what you're doing for a hoops conference there. R. Crandall. What's up, R. Crandall? R. Crandall says, John, wasn't it Wilner who said in February that if we got to April without a Pac-12 deal, then it would be time to worry? Might be time to worry. You are correct about that. And I didn't even really check Wilner today. I should have done that. That is my apologies to you guys for not actually doing that. I should have to see what he is saying about this, because if Canzano is now backtracking on timing and we're saying, or Dennis Dodd is saying, hey, it could be months now before this deal actually gets done, according to his sourcing. Yeah, I mean, that line that was supposed to be moving down half a point every week or every 2 weeks, maybe it was every 2 weeks, that's going to go down to the point where all of a sudden survival would be an underdog if it is truly going to be months here. So yes, it will be interesting to see the Wilner reaction there. In defense of these guys a little bit, yes, new information can really change your opinion on things. And I don't think it's really wrong to like be presented with new information and have to change your opinion, right? You could predict who's going to win the NCAA tournament, feel very strongly about it, and then be proven wrong. And like, okay, now I've got to change my opinion on UConn. They are not the team that lost 6 of 8 early in the conference season. They are clearly a very good team and the national champs, right? But it does kind of just show you, I mean, it's like they're, a lot of this is carrying water and Pac-12 narratives and helping out that league, and things are not going the way that the Pac-12 necessarily intended on that front. So that's a good point, R. Crandall. I'm glad that you brought that up, because we have not really revisited that in a while. And I didn't even think of it actually in light of all this, which I really should have. I really, really should have. Speaking of John Canzano, here's what I've got from his piece. It was kind of centered around Oregon, and obviously he's tied in, being a guy in Oregon. Have no doubts about him being tied in with Oregon and Oregon State, but he was using basically the lever here was like, what is Oregon going to do in all this? But I cut out a lot of the Oregon stuff because, Oregon's going through a change in leadership up at the top, and it's just, I don't really care so much about all that. So I tried to cut this down to the meat for you guys. Canzano says the Pac-12 conference continues to negotiate its media rights deal and explore expansion. I was told on Wednesday by a CEO group member that the board likes the deal that is taking shape, but the conference presidents and chancellors don't seem to be in a hurry. Well, this is a far cry from what we were hearing for months, where it's, hey, I suspect something's going to happen here at the Pac-12 tournament or before the Pac-12 tournament or at this board meeting or that board meeting. And it just kept can kick down the road, can kick down the road, can kick down the road. And the narrative changes on that. And now we're here. Well, conference presidents and chancellors don't seem to be in a hurry. Okay. And the board likes the deal. Hey, guys, the board likes the deal that's taking shape. Of course, the board likes the deal that is taking shape. This is the same message that we've gotten in 27 different forms before. Like, hey, it didn't actually happen here, but things are good. Positive. The update is positive from the board meeting. The board likes the deal that is taking shape. Like I said, it's the same thing over and over again. As much as I know I probably sound like a broken record, but this is my frustration in all of this and why I try and hammer this home. Like, as much as there are very similar stories from the Big 12 side of things that continue to circulate, the same sort of deal. Like, hey, here's a consultant who says the same thing that Dennis Dodd has been saying for a while, and it just kicks it into the news cycle for another. It is the same thing on the other side. It is the same thing. We get the same version of this deadline, this date, this benchmark came and passed with no TV deal, but the board likes where this is going. Everybody likes the deal that's taking shape. It's all okay. It just may take a little bit more time because of the UCLA, waiting on the UCLA situation to be taken care of by that board, or because of whatever it might be. Now here, it's the Apple and Amazon negotiations take a while. There's always some reason for why it's taking longer, and it's always that the deal is in a good place and it's taking shape and it's great. I want to make very clear we are seeing the same tactics being used on both sides, just more successfully on the Big 12 side of things. And I would tell you, I believe the Big 12 is operating from more of a position of power here in all of this. But this is where it starts to get more interesting. There was a series of bullet points at the end that are, according to Canzano, a few other things he's learned this week. He says, one, the Pac-12 is working right now to manage and reframe the expectations on the timing of its media rights deal. I forgot how funny that first line is. After everything I've just read to you and talking about how this is changing and the narrative shift is happening here, this bullet point comes after we have an article where John Canzano did exactly that. Well, carrying water for the Pac-12, he was working to manage and reframe the expectations of the timing of its media rights deal. That was exactly what he was doing, 100%. Says the conference hasn't made a public comment on the matter and likely won't, but the tone of the conversations I'm having feels measured. The CEO group meets next week, but I'm skeptical the conference will vote to finalize its media rights deal this month. Well, finally, we get a little skepticism from Canzano on that front. Skeptical that the conference will vote to finalize its media rights deal this month. So there you have it. As if it wasn't made clear enough already by the words that Canzano was writing, we now have it directly from him there. Hey, they're trying to manage expectations. Here comes an article where I try to manage your expectations about it. Another bullet point. Of course, the presidents and chancellors don't seem concerned about the delay. They continue to express solidarity. The holdup appears to be due mostly to media partners that are new to the live sports programming space. Read Apple and Amazon. So there's that narrative going out there. Live sports programming space. These people are new to it. Apple and Amazon. They're persnickety. That was the adjective used by the Sports Business Journal. They are persnickety in these negotiations. Presidents and chancellors don't seem concerned about the delay. I mean, we did have the Arizona State athletic director admitting publicly within the last 6 weeks that it had been very frustrating, that this whole process had been very frustrating. I mean, that was a thing that happened. So I don't know that it's fair to say like everybody seems to be completely unconcerned about this. We have seen some public concern before from these guys that are being now touted as, going on this media offensive to tell everybody that everything's fine. Another bullet. Some of the Pac-12 presidents and chancellors contributed to increased public expectations. God, I forget how hilarious this is. Okay. Some of the Pac-12 presidents and chancellors contributed to increased public expectations by mentioning March and April media rights timelines during interviews in the last 6 weeks. As one conference source told me on Wednesday, quote, I realize we played a role in that. It's not the Pac-12, man. The presidents and chancellors contributed to increased public expectations by going this whole thing. I went back and reread. Maybe I should try and pull it back up for you here. I went back and reread the Canzano article from a little less than a month ago. It was March 17th. But it was this whole triumphant piece about how Pac-12 punches back as TV deal nears. And it's this triumphant piece about how what the presidents did, the Arizona and Arizona State presidents and the Utah president, by getting out there and putting their story out there and saying it's going to be great. We're getting it done soon. All that. Pac-12 unity statement, right, too, that said it was going to be the very near future. All of these things that were trumpeted and triumphed by Canzano. Now they're saying, oh, yeah, our bad. Our bad on that. We got a little ahead of ourselves, a little carried away there. The Pac-12 is so bad at this. They are so bad. They are so bad at the narrative game, at the media game with all this, at controlling any of it. They are. It's old. It's like Dan Beebe Big 12 levels bad here. What can you do besides laugh here at this point when that is what is coming out there? There are a couple other bullet points I'll get to in just a second, but let me mix in Robert's comment here. Robert, appreciate your support. Appreciate you being here. Robert says, Pac-12 homers say they have plenty of time to get media rights deal done, but the longer it goes, potential media rights partners gain more leverage, not less. You are correct there. I mean, the Pac-12 is going to start to get to the point where they're staring down the barrel of the end of this deal. And I know you'd say, well, yeah, I mean, hey, there's 15 months left, but like this is in terms of when these usually get done, when the timing usually gets done on these things, the Pac-12 is really pushing it. They are really, really pushing it here. And yes, they are the only conference out there negotiating, but like what you are, the closer it gets, the less leverage you actually have because you become increasingly more desperate here to try and get something done. Now, if it really is that like you've got the basics of a deal hammered out with Amazon or Apple or whatever, and it's just them dragging their feet and they're the ones. I mean, maybe that is what's going on. But if it's more what it appears with the rest of this, then yeah, I'm with you. You are correct about how the leverage um, is going to go as far as that is concerned. Another bullet point here. ESPN remains the Pac-12's likely tier one partner. The Pac-12 network content feels destined for a streaming service. I wonder if longtime conference fans will mind that content landing on Apple, Amazon. Currently, if I want to get the conference's network, I have to use Sling. It's cumbersome. I'd welcome Apple, Amazon, but I may not be represented. Okay, I mean, whatever. I probably should have left that bullet point out. Don't really care. We know the Pac-12 network sucks. Apple, Amazon. I mean, obviously, Apple, Amazon's a step up for the Pac-12 network. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I continue to be told by a source with direct knowledge that Fox is definitely in the mix for the Pac-12 media rights. That is not likely to result in an A package that would include a massive number of football games, but Fox is involved. FS1 needs to fill inventory. I won't be surprised if Fox ends up with a B package that includes a handful of regular season Pac-12 football games on FS1. And if they are going to get greater than 50% here actually on linear, FS1 would seemingly be a viable option to do that. I don't know. The thought from the Sports Business Journal for a while there was that it would really be like pennies on the dollar if Fox were going to do that or become involved here. So we'll have to see what the finances would actually be with that. But you would take less money there just to get the games on, even though FS1, I mean, as we see in all these pieces about TV ratings like that's been an element that has really hurt the Big 12 is like having games on FS1 and they just rate very poorly. It's just a tough network to really get a lot of footing with when it comes to those TV numbers. So whether or not Fox is involved, again, like Dennis Dodd is refuted. There was another one. Who else was with Dodd on that recently? Was it McMurphy? I think that might be it. There had been a couple that had really refuted that Fox really was still actually involved here. And finally, Pac-12 sources remain confident the conference will eclipse the annual $31.6 million media rights distribution deal the Big 12 negotiated for its members. Of course they do. Of course they do. I'm not sure that distribution benchmark matters as long as the Pac-12 lands in range of that figure, but that's what I'm being told by those in the room. This is where I said I feel like Canzano is already starting to lay some of the groundwork here for that deal to not beat what the Big 12 got. I'm not sure that distribution benchmark matters as long as the Pac-12 lands in a range of that figure, but that's what I'm being told by those in the room. By him saying, Canzano, of all people here, who not long ago was quoting people are saying like, oh, it's a layup. That was the quote, right? Not too long ago, it was a layup, according to Pac-12 sources, that they were going to beat the Big 12 deal. Now I'm not sure that distribution benchmark matters as long as the Pac-12 lands in range. Similar sort of backtracking that we've seen from Wilner, I would say on this. He was very, very much ahead of the Canzano curve on this deal in terms of getting back down to that sort of a number. But yeah, just a tone change, right? Overall, pretty big tone change, I would say, out of Pac-12 country here with a lot of this. So we'll continue to monitor it and see where it goes. Again, we kind of just have competing nothing burgers on both sides. They're interesting, and some of the nuggets are always very interesting. But in terms of like overall big picture where we're going, it seems like it's just a car kind of in neutral right now, stalled and sitting there. I don't think that anything major happens with the Big 12 until it is that we actually get something substantial with the Pac-12 TV deal. And I don't know that we're getting anything substantial from the Pac-12 TV deal until Apple or Amazon decide that they're totally ready and all this. So still in a standstill, but the Pac-12 narrative is starting to shift. That's your overall big picture takeaway from today. So if you have anything for me, I think I'm probably just going to cut it off early here. But if you want to get something in with the buzzer, now is the time. You can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. If you want to get your question or comment in here at the last minute, I would take one more opportunity here to ask you to like the video, please. If you're in here, just like the video, one click, totally free. that is a way to support the channel as well. Sincerely appreciate all of you who do that. Get in here and support. Leave a comment on the video. That also will very much help me out. Helps get that engagement up, helps get that algorithm going, and another way to support the channel. You can also support the channel on Venmo. If you're not catching this live, it is John-Kurtz-4 if you would like to do that. I think I'm going to wait and try and do a separate video with some of the Jeff Fuller information because it was pretty good, and I don't want to just shortchange it by shoehorning it in here at the end of this video. So I would say be on the lookout for that. I will try to make some good use of that here to continue getting you some content on the channel. Hopefully, again, this will be the time where I will start to open up and maybe have a little bit more time to get some interviews potentially out there, some people that I have in mind to try and reach out to. So make it a little bit more creative with some of the content here now that we are heading into like the real doldrums of the offseason now with basketball out of the way, NCAA tournament out of the way, and apparently months away from an actual Pac-12 TV deal, according to Dennis Dodd, to tie this all back in from the beginning of the video. So, wow, Mid-Florida Academy, UCF will be beating K-State soon. Oh boy, am I going to have to Bob Huggins you? Am I going to have to go Bob Huggins Houston on you? You know, Bob Huggins saying Houston and, well, UCF, everybody coming in, they're not ready. They don't know what they are actually getting themselves into in Big 12 basketball. I would assume Mid-Florida Academy, that's a football comment there, because you sure as hell aren't going to be beating K-State in basketball anytime soon. We know that. Everybody in here knows that. Zesty's Retro and Games getting one into the buzzer. Do you think realignment is done by B-ball season, like next B-ball season? I don't know that the problem here is Zesty's. I don't know that realignment season is ever going to be done at this point until maybe we get to where there's like two massive super conferences 10 or 15 years down the road. I don't know, man. It's just really tough. I would think yes. Like, because you're basically talking about by December. So like in 8 months. Yes, I would think that the Pac-12 is going to get some sort of a deal on the table by then. And then people will be making decisions and we'll have a trickle-down effect. We'll have a domino effect of decisions at that point. But it is almost impossible to really truthfully predict anything. So I kind of hesitate to make predictions, because when you start doing that, you know, what was I just talking about with Canzano? You start having to like backtrack when things don't go the way you think that they're going to. Like, it's a very difficult proposition. Very, very difficult proposition. With that, guys, I think I'm going to sign off. Spread the word about the channel, social media, word of mouth, friends, family, other people who are Big 12 fans, college football fans, conference realignment fans. Let them know about the channel. Share it anywhere and everywhere. Support the channel on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4. Justin getting in. Justin, it's been a minute. Justin says it's Wednesday. UCF sucks. Boy, UCF Twitter, don't come after me. That's Justin. That's not me. Although Mid-Florida Academy was trying to get me a little riled up there. Boy, Mid-Florida, UCF basketball will have a higher NBA pick in the 2023 draft than any K-State player. All right, congrats. When's the last time you made the Elite Eight, Mid-Florida Academy? When's the last time you made the Elite Eight or finished in the top 10, my friend? Let me know. Get back to me. UCF fans. Boy, it's going to be a trip in the Big 12. So brash. And I mean, I dig it sometimes, and I understand it in football, but you're just talking nonsense if you're going to be brash in basketball. And I will Bob Huggins you. Have fun with Big 12 basketball, UCF. Cat fan, hey, Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel getting in here. Cat fan in Husker land. Appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for your support as always. Thanking you for making it. We got 3 buzzer beaters today. You guys are awesome. Daniel, appreciate you as always. I enjoy the number one emoji that you got going for me there. I should be able to talk to you guys Sunday. I was playing on 7:30. All right. Let's see if your boy can stick to a 7:30 on Sunday kick time, so to speak here. Until then, I bid you adieu. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon.